Stop whatever you're doing, because what I'm about to spill makes the Kardashians look like they're living in a monastery. A secret plot has just surfaced, one so twisted, so desperate, so wildly unpredictable, that it feels like Chrisean Rock is starring in her own psychological thriller. Word on the digital streets is she's not done with Blueface. Not even close. Forget moving on. Forget healing journeys. Allegedly, Homegirl has been cooking up a covert plan to drag Blueface right back into her orbit. And the methods being whispered about are darker than a blackout at midnight. And no, this isn't just post a cute selfie and hope he calls back energy. We're talking about a blueprint forged from obsession, chaos chemistry, emotional warfare, and bold strategies that sound like they were written after binge-watching too many villain origin stories, screenshots, demyths, weird messages, occult rumors, friends turning spies. It's the kind of plot only Chrisean could attempt with a straight face. This isn't love. This is a saga dipped in gasoline. And the craziest part, if the whispers are true, Blueface has no idea what's quietly closing in on him. Grab your popcorn. This rabbit hole is deep, and once you hear how far she's allegedly willing to go, you'll never look at this saga the same again. The whispers didn't start loud. They started quietly, like a rumor slipping through the cracks of the internet at 2 a.m. One random tweet, one mysterious voice note, one insider page posting with those chilling words that make the world stop scrolling, screenshots coming soon, and suddenly the entire narrative flipped. People began whispering that Chrisean Rock wasn't down with Blueface at all. She was plotting. And not romantic plotting. Not cute rom-com energy, but strategic, covert, if I can't have him, nobody can, type plotting that sent chills down timelines. For months, everyone assumed the two were permanently over. The legal battles, ugly arguments, public meltdowns, it all looked like the final nail in the coffin. Blueface distanced himself, went silent, and acted like he finally detoxed from emotional warfare. But Chrisean, she never moved like a woman finished. She moved like someone quietly taking notes, memorizing patterns, studying behavior, and waiting for the exact moment to strike back. Because in her mind, this wasn't heartbreak. It was war. And wars demand strategy. Insiders swear the whole scheme began after Blueface's final move that shook her confidence. Her inner circle noticed her frustration rising like water in a clogged tub. She stopped talking about new relationships and self-growth, and instead became obsessed with one topic only, Blueface. Not in the sweet nostalgic way people miss their ex, no, in the how do I turn the situation around way. She started asking questions nobody expected her to ask. Who was influencing him? Who had his ear? What connections could be severed? Which weaknesses could be used? People close to her claimed that Chrisean started reconnecting with figures from their past, reaching out to people she had previously blocked, argued with, or exposed online. Every contact suddenly became useful. Every conversation had purpose. Her tone shifted into strategy language, carefully worded, never emotional, always curious. She wasn't venting anymore. She was gathering intel, like a general revisiting maps before. Launching the comeback mission, the first major crack in the secrecy came from a leaked screen recording allegedly, showing messages between her and someone suspected to be connected to Blueface's circle. Nothing loud, nothing direct, just vague, breadcrumb-style probing. Questions about his current mindset, his routine, whether he still kept certain people around, whether he trusted the same voices he once did. It looked innocent on the surface, but the undertones were icy, intentional, the kind of messages that remind you some plots don't require volume, only patience. As the rumors grew louder, online investigators did what they do best, stalk. They noticed Chrisean suddenly liking old posts related to Blueface, reposting subtle lyrics, and even dropping captions that sounded eerily like reverse psychology bait. Quotes about loyalty, destiny, unfinished business. She started feeling spiritual symbolism. Elizabethan were meant to be type hints. Not enough to look obvious, but just enough to spark speculation. And that speculation did its job. But the most jaw-dropping leak came from claims that Chrisean had been collecting receipts, old messages, photos, dates, arguments, demons, anything that tied her to him emotionally, historically, or karmically. Insiders said she believed that if she could paint a narrative of they were always destined to return, public desperation alone would pressure Blueface into re-entering her orbit. Dark propaganda, Relationship Edition. And that wasn't even the wildest suggestion. Some pages reported she started asking spiritual advisors for guidance. Web sleuths swear they saw someone from her circle purchasing cleansing candles, tarot tools, and energy rituals that sound straight out of a movie soundtrack. Whether true or exaggerated, the fact people even believed she'd do it speaks volumes about how insane this saga already is. The idea wasn't romance, it was control. It was influence. It was the possibility that she might use mystic manipulation to bend fate to her will. It escalated when a now deleted audio clip surfaced, allegedly of Chrisean talking about winning him back by fixing the narrative. In it, she sounded calmer than she's ever been on live, disturbingly calm, like someone who already created the blueprint. She talked about timing, image control, silence strategies, and playing the victimized mother role to sway sympathy. Not screaming, not lashing out, just explaining like a chess coach teaching beginners how to sacrifice pieces for the final win. Fans immediately spun into a frenzy. They started analyzing everything she did through no suspicious lenses. One day she posted a video crying over heartbreak. Fans screamed. Strategy. The next day she apologized for past chaos. People called it reputation cleansing when she teased, focusing on family healing. They labeled it targeted empathy. Suddenly, nothing seemed genuine. Every tear, every quote, every moment of calm felt like a calculated step toward a bigger objective. As the conversation spiraled, more rumors surfaced about Chrisean attempting to isolate Blueface socially, allegedly messaging random women attached to him, warning them he was toxic, contacting people from his world and playing the concern card, saying Blueface was mentally unstable, helping seeds of doubt would sprout naturally. Gossip pages claimed she wanted him surrounded by nobody who'd encourage him to move on. In her mind, loneliness equals vulnerability, vulnerability equals possibility. The reactions were split down the middle. Some people defended her, saying heartbreak makes the brain delusional. Others dragged her, calling it manipulative, dangerous, obsessive, and eerily close to stalking. But either way, the narrative caught fire, even if half of it wasn't verifiable. The theory spread like smoke in a crowded theater, fast, scary, and impossible to ignore. And while all of this allegedly unfolded behind the scenes, Blueface remained clueless, blissfully unaware, posting casually, laughing, living, like somebody who escaped the fire and never glanced back at the ashes. His silence only made the conspiracy darker. Fans said Chrisean wasn't just trying to win him back romantically. She wanted to pull him back into her emotional labyrinth. The chaos addiction, the dependency, the identity that formed around being Blueface's other half. That wasn't love. That was hunger. Which is why the reveal nobody expected shifted the storyline into madness. Someone close to the situation claimed Chrisean believed that Blueface wasn't capable of functioning without her. That everything from his career to his public persona was intertwined with her existence. She reportedly said, "He became who he is because of me. And that's why he'll come back." The audacity alone shook timelines. Some said it sounded like delusion. Others said it sounded like prophecy. Either way, it sent shockwaves through an internet that was already exhausted. And finally, the alleged ace card detail surfaced. People swore Chrisean knew powerful secrets about Blueface that could permanently stain his career if exposed, and she was prepared to use that leverage to force a reunion storyline. Threat-based love, blackmail-flavored romance, holding emotional dynamite in her palm and whispering, "I'll drop this when you come home." Whether that part was real or not didn't matter anymore. The belief alone turned the entire situation radioactive. And just like that, the storyline transformed from heartbreak tragedy to psychological thriller. Because this didn't look like a woman missing her ex. It looked like someone planning to spiritually, publicly, and emotionally corner a man back into her life. And the scariest part, if these rumors were even halfway true, Chrisean Rock might be more dangerous to Blueface's peace than any enemy he's ever faced. Once the leaks reached viral combustion, the internet reacted like someone just opened Pandora's box and poured gasoline inside. TikTok detectives, Reddit conspiracy lords, YouTube ranters, Instagram sleuths, everybody sprinted into investigation mode with the stamina of Olympic sprinters. Every post, every story, every caption from Chrisean became suspicious. Nothing was innocent anymore. If she breathed weird, people assumed it was part of the operation. And the memes. Oh, the memes. One had her dressed as Ursula from The Little Mermaid, clutching Blueface's soul like a glowing contract. Another showed her as the villain in a telenovela saying, "He'll come back or the world will burn." The internet didn't just joke, it dissected, magnified, and dramatized until her alleged plot felt like a global emergency. What was once toxic love turned into strategic obsession, and people ate it up like popcorn dripping in scandal butter. Then celebrities started sneaking around the edges of the situation like kids trying not to get caught in the kitchen at midnight. Tamar Braxton posted suspicious quotes about knowing when to walk away from temptation. Summer Walker liked posts talking about protecting your heart. Even Lil Durk popped up on live saying, "Some relationships ain't meant to resurrect." Nobody said names, but everyone assumed those digital comments were aimed at the flaming battlefield called Chrisean versus Blueface, and well, the public exaggerated everything. A new layer of chaos dropped. Rumors claimed Chrisean wasn't just planning, she was testing reactions. Strategic posts, timed emotional tweets, random statements that hit the internet like emotional grenades. Insiders said she was studying which moves made Blueface react in the past, which tears softened him, which apologies made him nostalgic, which public displays cracked his armor. Like a scientist in a lab coat, except the experiment was psychological pressure. What truly sent the narrative flying into the stratosphere was talk that she wanted to rebuild her image first, not for spiritual healing, not for self-worth, but because optics sway public loyalty. Allegedly, she stopped openly beefing online because appearing calm, mature, focused would guilt the public into rooting for reconciliation. If the world believed she'd changed, she could leverage that sympathy to corner him back emotionally. Suddenly, her new peaceful arc didn't look like growth, it looked like bait. The crying apology posts, manipulation, the "I'm focusing on motherhood" quotes, strategy, the religion-based captions, sympathetic branding. Fans ripped every syllable apart like they were decoding state secrets. The logic was simple. If Chrisean convinced the world she was transformed, any future rejection from Blueface would make him look heartless. And once public opinion swung, so would career opportunities, management decisions, and network interest. That's when things got darker, because the plot wasn't just emotional. Rumors claimed she'd been communicating with people close to Blueface's business side. Record contacts, managers, associates, nothing direct, just concerned chats. Subtle questions slipped into friendly conversations. What projects were pending? What business ties still existed? Who could be influenced? Who held the key to Blueface's next moves? It sounded like scouting the battlefield before launching the attack. Then the craziest twist dropped. People swore they saw her reconnect with individuals she previously fought with online. Enemies from old livestream wars suddenly appeared in comment sections posting supportive emojis. Former allies she shamed months ago were suddenly friends again. It felt like alliances were shifting, not for peace, but for advantage, gathering troops before battle. The public spiraled deeper when a leaked voice note circulated, allegedly featuring Chrisean promising she'd prove she was always the one meant to stand by him. The calmness, the certainty, the conviction rattled everyone. Instead of sounding heartbroken, she sounded mission-focused, almost prophetic. Fans replayed the audio until it felt like a chilling chant echoing through the entire internet. Blogs turned the rumor into wildfire. Titles got bold. Chrisean preparing to pull Blueface back. Plotting a comeback. Truth or delusion? And every headline increased the hysteria. Every video review added gasoline. Every reaction influencer shaped the narrative until half the world believed she was planning a psychological ambush. But the next twist? It made everything 10 times louder. Multiple pages claimed that Chrisean believed Blueface's life would crumble without her energy attached. That she saw herself as his karmic anchor. The chaos that fueled his creativity, the scandal that kept his name floating, the unpredictable spark that made networks pay attention. And if she really believed she was the reason his story was relevant, then bringing him back wouldn't be reunion. It would be correction. Like restoring something that was broken when he chose separation. It got even more insane when rumors surfaced that she held private evidence that could potentially embarrass him publicly if leaked. Screenshots that never saw daylight. Footage nobody's watched. Old messages that could be twisted into narrative weapons. She hadn't dropped them. She hadn't threatened him directly. But the whispers said she planned to hint, softly, subtly, just enough to imply she was holding emotional leverage. Influencers called it a silent hostage situation. Fans called it strategic madness. Blogs called it the scariest version of love ever seen online. And meanwhile, Blueface lived like nothing was happening. Laughing in selfies, posting music snippets, promoting projects. His carefree vibe only made the conspiracy darker. Because what's more chilling than someone plotting to drag a man back into emotional chaos while that man is peacefully oblivious? The internet watched him like a character walking through a horror movie hallway, unaware that the villain is 2 steps behind. People started warning him in comment sections. Some even tagged him in posts saying he needed security, therapists, boundaries, or sage. It became national entertainment. Then celebrity reactions escalated. Hazily mentioned on Live that women obsessed with proving they're irreplaceable can get dangerous real fast. Jaden posted cryptic laughing emojis under shady blogs. Even Whack 100 chimed in talking about letting the past stay buried before somebody digs up the bones. Nothing explicit, but enough smoke to make millions believe there was definitely a fire. To make everything even darker. Chrisean posted random spiritual captions about destiny, unfinished bonds, and what God put together. Some took it as sentiment. Others saw it as emotional rope. It gave the entire scandal a religious undertone, as if she baptized the plot and called it holy. And through all the commentary, one uncomfortable question kept hovering. Was this really about love or control? Because the narrative was flipping. People stopped arguing about whether Chrisean wanted Blueface. They started questioning whether she wanted power, the emotional leverage she lost when he walked away without looking back. They wondered if she truly missed him or missed being the center of his chaos ecosystem. And that question alone turned the scandal into psychological warfare. When fake source threads popped up online claiming she'd been mapping the perfect moment to resurface in his life, fans didn't laugh it off. They nodded. They believed it. The saga had become dark enough, twisted enough, and hinged enough that nothing sounded impossible anymore. The internet began watching her posts like surveillance footage. One wrong word and the theory strengthened. One emotional rant and the allegations sharpened. She became the digital version of the unhinged rom-com anti-hero. Except this story wasn't cute. It was unstable love mixed with public addiction and a splash of silent threat. And nobody knew what her next move would be. A sudden apology. A he was the one all along speech. A pity post meltdown. Or a full-blown emotional nuke. The tension felt like thunder building before a storm that would ruin the entire skyline. Because if the rumors held any truth at all, Chrisean wasn't trying to move on. She was trying to pull Blueface back into her gravity with methods dark enough to make the internet stop breathing. When the frenzy finally peaked, it wasn't because of a post from Chrisean, nor a cryptic emoji from Blueface, but because the public realized something bigger than the rumors themselves. the fallout had already begun. Whether the alleged plot was real, exaggerated, or just online mythology spun out of screenshots, the consequences seeped deep. What started as whispers turned into an internet-wide psychological autopsy of everything Chrisean touched, said, posted, and deleted. The entire saga mutated into a social experiment where every blink felt like evidence. People watched her like they were monitoring seismic activity on a fault line. Her silence became threatening. Her moments of peace were interpreted as strategy. Her emotional outbursts were decoded as pressure tactics. Even when she smiled in photos, commenters wrote essays about symbolism, timing, and manipulation. It didn't matter if any of it was true, perception became reality, and the shadow hanging over her image was darker than ever. Meanwhile, Blueface's aura shifted completely. As the narrative painted him as the one trying to stay out of chaos, people began rewriting his entire character arc. Threads popped up defending him. Fan pages changed tone. Some called him a man who finally escaped a gravitational pull too heavy for any normal human to carry. Others said he looked lighter, calmer, almost relieved, like someone who walked out of a long thunderstorm and saw daylight for the first time. This shift was brutal for Chrisean, because for years, the internet gave her an endless margin for impulsive behavior. They called it being real, being raw, being authentic. But once the narrative framed her as allegedly calculated, those same traits suddenly morphed into red flags. What once looked emotional became dangerous energy. What once looked passionate became obsession. The storyline flipped. And she was now the villain in a saga she thought she'd always control. And that's when the true consequences arrived, the reputational kind. Not loud, not explosive, but quiet, slow, and undeniable. Brands began stepping back from the noise. Podcasts stopped publicly aligning themselves with her storyline. Those who once hyped her boldness now hesitated, unsure if they wanted to be tied to the allegations swirling around her. Even fans who once worshipped the unpredictability started confessing fatigue. They weren't laughing anymore, they were analyzing. The psychological grip of the leaks changed the entire atmosphere. People started digging deeper, connecting dots that may never have existed, because the internet loves a theory more than it loves truth. They dissected quotes from old live streams like archived prophecy. They resurfaced old moments that now felt strategic in hindsight. A single statement from 2 years ago could suddenly become proof she'd been crafting the return storyline long before Blueface ever walked away, whether fair or not. This shaped her image more than any meltdown ever did. It wasn't chaos, it wasn't violence, it wasn't yelling. It was the idea that she was quietly planning something, that she wanted control more than closure, that she wanted the narrative more than the love. And in the world of public scandals, nothing terrifies people more than the thought that a villain isn't loud, but silent and planning. And Blueface. His silence became mythological. The internet began romanticizing it. The absence of response turned him into a symbol of moving on, protecting peace, and spiritual escape. Commenters said silence is the ultimate luxury when you've survived public emotional warfare. Others claimed he'd finally discovered what maturity looks like. Some even compared him to celebrities who stop feeding the media and suddenly become legends in their own story. Through all of this, Chrisean's public reactions didn't help. Every emotional moment tied back to the rumor. A confused rant? Proof she's frustrated because the plan isn't working. A long caption about growth? Proof she's rebuilding her image. A photo of her smiling. Proof she's preparing to resurface. It didn't matter what she did. The conspiracy lens swallowed everything whole. Eventually, the story became less about facts and more about archetypes. She became the alleged mastermind who couldn't accept a quiet ending. He became the man who slipped through the cracks before the door locked. And the world became spectators hungry to know whether this was truly the finale or simply the calm before another detonation. Some argued the entire scandal was unfair to her painting. A woman coping with heartbreak as a schemer in a midnight plot. Others insisted nothing about her behavior ever came without theatrics, so the idea wasn't shocking. The point wasn't truth. The point was how easily narratives morph when emotion, history, and fame are poured into the blender together. The fallout rippled hard into public opinion. People began discussing psychological boundaries, emotional distance, toxic attachment. Commenters who once rooted for them as a wild pop culture couple now wrote threads saying the relationship needed to remain dead and buried. Some love stories don't need sequels, one viral post read. It got tens of thousands of likes because everyone understood the sentiment. The saga had crossed into exhaustion territory. As for Chrisean, the more pressure piled on, the more her online presence felt unsteady. She tried cheerful posts, motivational captions, spiritual affirmations, anything to shift the narrative back into neutral. But the internet kept interpreting every move through the shadow of the alleged plot. And that shadow is powerful. Images change fast once the audience believes there's a deeper agenda hiding under the surface. Network execs whispered about unpredictability. Associates questioned stability. Bloggers recycled old clips like prophecy seeds. Even people who wanted to stay neutral couldn't unsee the narrative that had been planted. The scandal wasn't just about her wanting him back anymore. It was about whether she'd crossed into a psychological war zone with herself. And somewhere in that fallout, the strangest realization formed. If Blueface ever did so much as acknowledge her again, people would scream plot success. If he argued with her online, they'd say strategy working. If he visited Junior, they'd say she pulled him back. She couldn't win either way. That was the curse of the rumor. The story consumed everything. Yet ironically, the same curse hit Blueface too. If he got into future trouble, they'd blame her plot. If his career dipped, they'd blame her spiritual interference. If he fell into another messy situation, they'd say she never let go. Fiction and truth blurred until no one could tell the difference. And that's what made the entire thing so unnervingly addictive. It became a myth with real consequences. By the time it all settled, nobody knew what was real. Was she plotting? Was it all rumor? Was the internet just bored and hungry? The questions hung heavy, unanswered. But what the world didn't know was this. The saga permanently altered how everyone viewed the connection between Chrisean and Blueface. The breakup wasn't clean. The future wasn't clear. And their names would forever trigger speculation no matter how far apart they moved. Because love that messy doesn't fade quietly. And rumors that sensational don't die fast. Whether Chrisean ever tried to pull him back or whether it was all online paranoia, the truth no longer mattered. The narrative lived on its own. It stained their history, their reputations, and the public's imagination. And deep down, the entire world is still watching, suspicious, curious, waiting, because if these two ever cross paths again, even accidentally, the internet will explode all over again. And if you're still here after all that mental gymnastics, emotional espionage, and digital witch hunt theorizing, congratulations, you are officially addicted to scandal. Honestly, welcome home. Around here, the tea is boiling, the chaos is seasonal, and the plot twists hit harder than rent day. Now don't play with me, smash that like button like it owes you back rent, child support, and emotional compensation. Break that thing. Treat it the way the internet treats peace whenever Blueface and Chrisean breathe in the same month. And while you're at it, hit subscribe with the force of a Zeus reunion chair swing, because you do not want to be late when the next bomb drops. Because let's be honest, with these two, it's never over. Destiny, rumor, gossip, meltdown, they are the eternal content factory. At any moment, Chrisean could post a cryptic emoji or Blueface could go silent for 3 hours and the entire internet would combust like fireworks in a microwave. And you want to be front row, not catching the recap after TikTok filters it through conspiracy music. Turn on notifications too. Think of them like paparazzi instincts installed directly into your phone. Because the second a leak pops, a voice note drops, or one of them blinks too dramatically, I'll be right here breaking it down, roasting it elegantly, and serving you commentary dipped in sarcasm marinade. Drop your theories in the comments. Do you think the plot was real, a myth, or just the internet doing what it does best, spinning drama into legend. And tell me, if these two ever cross paths again, do you think it'd be fate or disaster? This has been Scandal Spark, where rumors get resurrected, drama gets deep-fried, and the truth always comes out wearing messy eyeliner. Stay toxic, stay curious, and stay tuned.